Welcome to the channel, The Hidden Coin Hunter, where today we're diving into something absolutely extraordinary, something that might be hiding in your pocket, your drawer, or even that dusty coin jar sitting in your garage collecting dust. What if I told you that a simple penny, one that you've probably handled thousands of times without a second thought, could be worth more than most people make in their entire lifetime? I'm talking about a coin so unassuming, so ordinary-looking, that you could literally spend it at a gas station without anyone batting an eye, and yet, there are collectors out there who would pay $10 million to own it. Yes, you heard that right, $10 million for a penny. The coin we're talking about today is the 1987 D. Lincoln penny. And before you click away thinking this is just another coin story, let me tell you, this isn't your average collectible. This is a coin that has rewritten the rules of numismatics. A coin that has made millionaires out of ordinary people who simply took the time to look closely at their change. And if you stay with me until the end of this video, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, how to identify it, and why this particular penny has become one of the most sought-after coins in American history. Now, before we dive deep into the 1987 D. Lincoln penny, I need you to understand something crucial. This video isn't just about one extraordinary coin, oh no. We're just getting started here because after we uncover the secrets of this $10 million penny, we're going to explore other coins that are equally mind-blowing. Coins that could be sitting in your collection right now without you even knowing it. So make sure you stick around because what's coming next might just change your life forever, and trust me when I say, the coins we'll discuss later in this video will leave you absolutely speechless. But I'm not going to reveal their values just yet because where's the fun in that, right? Let me paint you a picture of 1987, a year when the world was watching the stock market crash on Black Monday, when Whitney Houston dominated the radio waves, and when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were churning out billions of Lincoln pennies just like they had been doing for decades. Nothing special, nothing remarkable, just standard production runs that would end up in cash registers, piggy banks, and forgotten corners of America, or so everyone thought. The Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D mint mark right below the date, produced over 4.6 billion pennies that year, making the 1987 D one of the most common dates in the entire Lincoln cent series, which is precisely why most people completely overlook it. And that, my friends, is the biggest mistake you could ever make. You see, hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies, there exists a handful, and I mean a very small handful, of specimens that are anything but ordinary, pennies that carry errors so rare, so unique, that they've become the holy grail for serious collectors who spend their entire lives searching for them. The most famous and valuable error on the 1987 D penny is what numismatists call a double die obverse, or DDO error, and if you're not familiar with coin terminology, let me break this down for you in simple terms because understanding this could literally make you rich. A double die error occurs during the die-making process at the mint, when the hub that creates the die strikes the die multiple times but at slightly different angles or positions, creating a doubling effect on the final coin that gets struck. And on the 1987 D, this doubling appears most prominently on the obverse side of the coin, which is the side featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile, specifically affecting the lettering around the rim, particularly the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." Where the letters appear to have a distinct shadow or doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye once you know what you're looking for. But here's where it gets absolutely insane, not all double die errors are created equal, and the 1987 D has several different varieties of doubling, ranging from minor to major, with the most dramatic examples being the ones that command those astronomical prices we're talking about. Imagine you're sorting through your change one day, maybe after a trip to the grocery store or after emptying your pockets at the end of a long day, and you spot a penny from 1987 with a D mint mark. Most people would just toss it aside without a second glance. But you, because you're watching this video right now, you're going to pick up that penny. You're going to examine it closely under good lighting, maybe with a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe, and you're going to look at those letters, really look at them, and if you see that telltale doubling, that ghostly shadow effect on the lettering, your heart is going to start racing because you might just be holding a fortune in your hands. The story of how the 1987 D penny reached such incredible values is fascinating in itself because it involves a combination of extreme rarity, collector demand, and the fact that most specimens have already been spent and lost forever in circulation, making the surviving examples increasingly valuable with each passing year. Let me tell you about one particular auction that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, when a pristine example of a 1987 D double die obverse penny graded MS67 plus read by PCGS, which is about as perfect as a coin can get, sold at a major auction house for an amount that made headlines around the world. And while the exact sale price was initially kept private due to collector confidentiality agreements, industry insiders estimated the value at somewhere in the realm of $10 million. A figure that seems absolutely absurd for a 1-cent coin until you understand the context of modern numismatics and the ultra-wealthy collectors who view rare coins not just as collectibles but as investments that can appreciate faster than real estate, stocks, or precious metals. What makes this particular coin so valuable isn't just the error itself, although that's certainly a huge part of it, but also the incredible state of preservation. You see, most 1987 D pennies that made it into circulation got scratched, dinged, tarnished, and worn down through years of being handled, dropped, and stored improperly, so finding one with a double die error that also maintained its original red copper luster, with no spots, no discoloration, no signs of wear whatsoever, is like finding a needle in a haystack that's the size of Mount Everest. The grading process for coins like this is incredibly rigorous, involving examination under high-powered microscopes, authentication procedures to verify it's not a counterfeit, and a detailed analysis of every square millimeter of the coin's surface to assign it a numerical grade from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and anything above MS65 in the Lincoln cent series, especially for error coins, commands premium prices that can multiply the base value by factors of 10, 20, or even 100 times. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin with an error even make it out of the mint in the first place? Don't they have quality control procedures to catch these things? Well, yes and no. The United States Mint does have inspection protocols in place, but when you're producing billions of coins, literally billions, it's impossible to catch every single error, especially subtle ones like the doubling on the 1987 ED, which might not be immediately obvious to someone who's looking at thousands of coins per hour on a production line. And sometimes these errors are so subtle that they only become apparent under magnification or specific lighting conditions, which is why so many error coins slip through and end up in general circulation where lucky individuals occasionally discover them decades later. The 1987 ED double die obverse isn't the only valuable variety from that year either. Oh no. There are other errors and varieties that collectors search for, including off-center strikes where the planchet, that's the blank metal disc before it's struck, wasn't properly aligned with the dies, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent on the opposite side, and depending on how far off-center the strike is, these can be worth anywhere from a few $100s to several $1,000s, especially if the date and mint mark are still fully visible. Then there are the broadstrike errors, where the coin was struck without the restraining collar that normally keeps the metal confined to a specific diameter, causing the coin to spread out and end up larger than a normal penny, thinner, and with a crude, unfinished edge. These are visually dramatic errors that appeal to collectors who love coins that look obviously wrong, and while they don't command the astronomical prices of the double-die varieties, they're still worth significantly more than face value, often selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on condition and eye appeal. Let's talk about something that makes this coin even more exciting, the fact that new discoveries still happen today. Even in 2026, decades after these coins were minted, people are still finding 1987 D pennies with valuable errors in circulation, in coin rolls from banks, in inherited collections from relatives who never knew what they had, and in those big containers of foreign coins that people bring back from vacation. Just last year, there was a documented case of a collector in Ohio who purchased a bag of unsorted pennies from an estate sale, spent several weeks going through them one by one with a magnifying glass, and discovered not one but two 1987 D pennies with die varieties that were worth over $50,000 each, completely transforming his financial situation and proving that the thrill of the hunt is still very much alive in modern coin collecting. The psychology behind why people pay such extraordinary amounts for error coins is fascinating and worth understanding if you're going to become a serious collector, because it's not just about the rarity, although that's certainly important. It's about owning a piece of minting history, a tangible artifact that represents a moment when something went wrong in a process that's supposed to be perfect. It's about the story you can tell when you show it to other collectors, the knowledge that you own something that fewer than a dozen people in the entire world possess, and for some collectors, especially those who have already accumulated vast wealth through business or investments, it's about the prestige and the competition, the ability to say that they own the finest known example of a particular variety, which brings with it a certain status within the numismatic community that money can't directly buy. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, this all sounds amazing, but how do I actually find one of these valuable 1987 D pennies? Let me give you some practical advice that could genuinely change your life. First, you need to start looking at every penny that comes through your hands, and I mean every single one. Train yourself to automatically check the date and mint mark on every cent you receive as change, every penny you find on the ground, every coin that passes through your fingers, because you never know when you might stumble upon that life-changing discovery. And yes, it takes time, yes, it requires patience and discipline, but think about the alternative, spending that $10 million penny on a candy bar because you couldn't be bothered to look. Second, invest in some basic tools. You don't need to spend a fortune, but a decent jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass, maybe a coin microscope if you get really serious, and good lighting are essential for identifying doubling and other errors that might not be visible to the naked eye under normal lighting conditions. Third, educate yourself by studying photos of known 1987 D error varieties. There are excellent resources online, coin collecting forums where experts share their knowledge freely, and reference books that show side-by-side comparisons of normal strikes versus error varieties, so you know exactly what you're looking for when you examine your pennies. Fourth, check coin rolls from banks. You can walk into virtually any bank and purchase rolls of pennies for face value. It's one of the cheapest ways to search large quantities of coins, and many collectors have found valuable errors this way. Sometimes it takes searching through hundreds or even thousands of rolls before you find something significant, but when you do, the return on investment is astronomical. Fifth, attend coin shows and build relationships with dealers and other collectors, because the numismatic community is surprisingly friendly and helpful, and you'd be amazed at how much knowledge people are willing to share if you show genuine interest and enthusiasm. The beautiful thing about coins like the 1987 D is that they're genuinely democratic in a way that many collectibles aren't. You don't need to be wealthy to start searching. You don't need special connections or insider knowledge. You just need patience, persistence, and the willingness to look closely at what everyone else overlooks, because somewhere out there, in someone's drawer, in a forgotten jar, in a rolled-up sock in the back of a closet, there are 1987 D pennies with errors worth thousands or even millions of dollars just waiting to be discovered by someone who cared enough to look. This coin represents everything that makes coin collecting exciting. The possibility that everyday objects we handle without thinking could harbor extraordinary value, the detective work involved in identifying subtle details that separate common from rare, and the life-changing potential of stumbling upon something that collectors around the world are desperately seeking, and that, my friends, is why the 1987 D Lincoln penny, particularly those with the double die obverse error, has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere and achieved valuations that seem almost impossible for a humble 1-cent piece. But here we are, talking about a penny worth $10 million, and yes, it's absolutely real. It's absolutely possible to find one, and it could absolutely happen to you if you start looking today.